welcome back. This is Unrendered on IKTV. You can follow us on Twitter at iConcepts. I'm Tony Regisford chatting with Mr. Oscar Allen. Oscar, you know, I got you here, so we're talking about change, and this is what you represent. You're the chairman of the People's Movement for Change. And so forgive me if our conversation, you know, been going on about the Constitution and things like that, but it is at the core of what perhaps needs fixing. Anyway, let's just spend another 3 minutes on this issue. You were saying that in 1978, just prior to the attainment of independence, there was a significant contribution made by groups of people that went for consideration to be incorporated as part of the Constitution, and we were,
right.
It was not carried forward. And also, just before we went out, you were talking about the way the Westminster system works for England, the United Kingdom, and the community groups that direct and drive the whole political structure. So underneath, the political parties are significant groups, whether they be church, trade unions, teachers associations, whatever, community groups. They are significant and have a hearing, right? I once heard a radio personality giving a sort of monologue. It was in Trinidad, actually. He was saying that, you know, the British, they don't really have a constitution per se. Their constitution is in their blood. They have this understanding of what the rules of governance are. Okay, so there are bits and pieces that are written, but there's not this document that sits from page 1 to page whatever that says this is what's enshrined here and this is what we must follow. Is there a lesson in that, really? Is there something that says that it has to be definitely part of you, what constitutes you? That's why I suppose they call it the Constitution, as opposed to a set of rules per se that people concoct and then enshrine and think that these are what we must live by and this is in stone. Shouldn't the human being, should the Vincentian or the Caribbean person understand essentially this is what we are as citizens and this is what we must live by, and that therefore is our Constitution? I don't know if I'm romanticizing this whole notion of, you know, self-recognition, self-understanding, but I'll throw it out to you.
Yeah, there is some romanticism in the way you put it.
Yes.
But I remember also Nelson Mandela in his biography speaks of his experience as a young man in his tribe, call it his tribe, where he would see the elders sit around to make a decision.
Right.
And they would talk and they would talk until they came to a consensus. They didn't vote. And the majority took the path.
It was a silent understanding. After fleshing it out,
and the leader, the king or the leader of the tribe,
chief
would enunciate what the decision was. They would agree, and they would go about their business with that. The British have their thing, the Magna Carta of King John, when he was confronted by the nobles, said, you're going too far. And they brought him down to their level. Each society has that historic thing in their blood. Look at us in the Caribbean. 500 years ago, 300 years ago, our Kalinago, Arawak, Siboney people, they had their system. It was trashed. And something from outside dominated us. In other words, what may have been in the blood for hundreds of years is no longer ours. So to an extent, though subterraneously there may be something that remains, we have the task to mold ourselves and our society in an image that and a vision that we adopt and affirm.
It's a mammoth task.
It is, and it is not assisted by the systems that we are operating now.
How do we change it? How do we change the systems that we're operating by now so that we can have a system that assists the achievement of the task that we've just identified?
Tony, you know you're asking me a question that I can't answer. Do you know that?
Well, I know and I don't know, because I think that, I know it's a difficult question to answer, but I certainly would like to pull you out on whether it be a radical thing that you think is required. I mean, revolution, you know, you tell me.
Okay.
But
the weakness of revolution, which is the removal of one system and the imposition of another, is that it does not embrace sufficiently the grassroots and even the middle class yearnings from the bowels. It involves an idea in the heads of a few who ask the people to accept it. I would think that the change that we need in the Caribbean is more grounded than that. More grounded in the sense that a discussion, a conversation on real life needs to take place among our people. It's romantic, but it is necessary if it is to be sustained and influential in our future.
But how do you achieve that when materialism, for one part anyway, is a dominant factor in the way we see ourselves? We measure success by the clothes that we wear, the house that we live in, the vehicle that we drive, the schools that your children attend. All those are measures, and that's now indoctrinated into who we are, and it's to me far removed from that conversation that you've just identified. So that's what I refer to when I say it's a mammoth task.
It's a mammoth task, but it can begin somewhere. And the individualistic kind of materialism that we live does not have to be the materialism that we continue with. You see, much of our life is material. Food, air, water, homes, entertainment.
Yes.
They have a material basis.
But there's a concept of enough. So nature understands that concept. A whale, a fish, a lion will hunt, and it will take what it needs. Okay? What about us humans? Why we think we have to exceed our needs and do not grasp the concept of what is enough?
I think it goes beyond
Is it a human
that.
feeling?
I think it goes beyond looking for what is enough for me or for my community. I think it also involves, I don't want to call it a higher, but another frame of reference. I remember a part of Matthew's Gospel, chapter 6, where Jesus Christ is teaching his disciples, and they're talking precisely this thing about material. He said, people want clothes, they want food, they want as much as they can. He said, don't fight for that. There is another realm which you must fight for, and that's justice. That's equality and harmony with the other person. He said, once you attain and reach for that, your material satisfaction will come. He said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will come to you. We grasp at the material possession for ourselves. If we grasp at a relationship between people which is caring and justice seeking. I can't have two fridges and you don't have one.
It would be against your grain, your conscience, really. Yeah.
So there is that level of otherness in our thinking that we need to develop.
Yes.
Relations.
Well, let's avert the danger of not having mentioned in this entire program the role that you've been trying to play in this Christmas flood. So I'm going to come off. I'm going to let out the air of this balloon that we're riding on, and let's hit the ground now.
It's not so different, eh? It's relationship.
It's related. It's related. I know, because I guess what you were talking about is affected by the politics of the day, and politics meaning the way we relate to each other. You wrote a few letters, and I read them to the Prime Minister, Christian Council, etc. And the tone of them was using the not using the relief efforts, the rebuilding efforts of the Christmas floods to gain political ascendancy, depoliticize the whole thing. Is it an understanding that you have, the PMC has, that in fact there is a lot of politicizing of the relief efforts?
Let me slide away a little bit and come back.
Go ahead.
After the floods, Christmas floods, a Vincentian abroad, Junior Jones, wrote a letter. This is what it said. It said, at this juncture, our island needs all hands on deck. Let us try to imagine the difference it would create if our people saw you working together, Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition. Can you imagine how much animosity will be dissipated if Vincentians saw the Prime Minister and the Opposition Leader traveling around the country together, examining the damage, and speaking to them together in true and genuine concern for their well-being? Could you imagine, says this writer, 1 week later after the floods, if both of you men came together? He was making this point not because he anticipated unfairness, at least he doesn't say so, but he says there is an opportunity.
Well, he's saying it's a golden opportunity, really. This opportunity is presenting itself. In as much as there's work to be done, and on the premise that the place is already divided,
right?
Here is a healing opportunity. That's what I suggest.
In fact, he said, gentlemen, I beseech of you both to put your differences aside for now. This echoed what we were saying for 5 years.
Yes.
We couldn't let this letter pass without taking it forward. So we took it and we sent it to each of the leaders, Dr. Gonzalez and Mr. Eustace, along with a letter of our own, saying, to this end, what did we say? There's an urgent need to depoliticize all work effort with reconstruction and rehabilitation. I'm saying that
I'm conscious of the fact that we're actually at the end of this segment. So let's hold it there. When we come back, we pick it straight up at that point.
Just to make the point,
yes.
The PMC has members who are not in the PMC. Junior Jones is one. We're saying let's depoliticize things and build harmony in St. Vincent.
Okay, so let's look at what transpired after these letters went out when we come back. This is Unrendered on AKTV. When we come back, we will be in our final segment with my guest, Mr. Oscar Allen, the chairman of the PMC, People's Movement for Change.